Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is 31st of March. That means it is the last day of the month, and that is always interesting to see what will happen at the last day of the month. Also, last day of the quarter, the first quarter of 2026. So then maybe that we could see some positioning for get ready for the second quarter. This video is for educational only. There's no advice or recommendation whatsoever intended. Here we have the oil and gas exploration index illustrated by the ETF, one of the ETFs on that front. We actually saw it open much higher and then it sold out throughout the session. So it actually formed this top and reversal pattern, an indication of a top and reversal. This is called a bearish engulfing. There is not divergence on the RSI, so there is still room for higher levels, maybe on the medium term, but for short term we could see some profit taking continuing. Same here on the oil service sector that also formed this similar pattern, actually taking out 1, 2, 3 days of previous bullish trading. So really a profit taking going on there. The financial sector bounced a little bit yesterday, but as we can see here, it was just from it is still in a bearish trend just for the support down there at 47 there on the financial sector. Most of the other sectors were actually bearish, as we can see, but we saw also a little bit of bounce here also in the healthcare. But again, it is not much to talk about. But maybe we could see a little bit of turnaround in some of them, at least on the short term. Maybe some buyers coming in here. Nasdaq 100 dipped below the first target there, 138.2 projection of this double top like pattern there. We have the support, as we talked about, at 22,959. So it dipped just below it yesterday, and I think it closed just below it also, 22,841. Still in the bearish trend, could push lower. However, here we can see after market closed yesterday, it actually bounced a little bit here on the future overnight in the Asian session, continued to bounce maybe a little bit here in the European session. So let's see if it takes out the lows from overnight there. Well, then we could see lower levels on the Nasdaq 100, and I wouldn't be surprised if that scenario plays out. The S&P 500 closed just below or just around 6,343. Actually smack bang middle on it there. On the support, there is still room down to around 6,200 support. There was actually a stronger support. So if we get down there, then I think we will see a strong bounce. But for now, it doesn't look too good. However, here pre-market, we can also see it bouncing. This is the future. Bouncing off its support here at 63, 62. We had this sell-off there yesterday where it paused on it, and overnight it has bounced somewhat and could bounce a little bit further. So what I will do here, I will actually add a Fibonacci to the last leg down there and say, all right, let's where can we get up to around the 6,519, 6,540. The Dow Jones also has bounced overnight a little bit here, illustrated by the future. The small cap paused or touched the 239 minor support. There's still room down to around these levels here, back from November last year at 229. But we are back to last year. We have taken back a lot of gains that we gained in end of last year. The Seng index this morning is still above the 22,372. Could push further here in the coming days. Bearish trend, no divergence, indicating likely lower levels. Nikkei just above 50,250 still, and that is the key level to observe. European markets yesterday, EUROSTOXX 50 once again stayed above 5,491 support at the closing. It has dipped below quite a few times, but bounced there. And we can see here pre-market, it is due to open shortly. It seems to be bouncing further, so the buyers are coming in here now on the European market, say maybe that's it, at least short term. So we can see here also on the DAX well, a bounce here yesterday already through the session. It opened low, a little bit lower, and then it didn't take out the entire previous days bearish trend on Friday as it was. But let's see here, pre-market it seems to be continuing to bounce a little bit further. Could get up to 22,915 level. On the FX markets, we have euro dollar that took out the minor support there at 114.80, and remember, as I said, if it does that, the 114 could come in play, and I think it will. Still negative sentiment, no divergence, trying to bounce a little bit, but we are in a bearish trend. You can see all the moving averages. Give it a few days, then we will see 55 and 100 crossing over 200. They're both declining. That could mean lower levels for euro dollar in the short to medium term, also longer term. Sterling dollar touched the 131.60-65 support here yesterday. We could see a little bit of bounce short term. Expect that maybe up to 132.80, but bearish trend all around there too. It's likely to push it lower to around 130 here on the medium term in about a week maybe. Euro sterling, on the other hand, crawling a little bit higher yesterday, touching the upper part of the cloud and the 200 moving average, having a bit of a struggle here, and RSI just below 60 threshold, so that'll be key here the next 2 days. Can it actually close above 60, or will it push higher? The key here is also the 100 moving average coming down, kind of putting a lid on it, and you can see the same here with the 200 moving average. So we could see a little bit of a setback, but I think it will try to slowly crawl higher here. And there is some resistance here at the 61.8 retracement at 87.13 that could be tested. The yen pairs, some are a little bit frustrating, especially the dollar yen here. Yeah, it did break higher, and it also closed higher, and that indicated we are likely to see higher levels towards 162, but now it's setting back a little bit. There is actually divergence building up. However, if it takes out the peak there from yesterday at 160.45, then I think we will see that push up towards 162. If it slides below 159.30, then expect a correction down to 158.60, maybe even all the way down to 158.15. Euro yen. Again, support here at the 100 moving average. You can see how quite a few times, so keep an eye on that. Still, there is a risk to the downside if it takes out the lows from yesterday. Well, then we could be looking at 181.80 down here, where we have a little bit stronger support. We are below the 55 moving average, we're actually below the cloud, but let's see if it can crawl back above. It needs to close above 184.80 to re-establish the bullish trend. The Aussie yen flirting around with this 109.35 support, dipping a little bit below, and RSI flirting with the 40 threshold. If it does close below it, then I think we'll see a move down to 107.5 maybe. But you can see here, this longer term uptrend, or medium to long term uptrend we've seen so many times, it has been broken. It is just a question of time. Will it really push lower, or will we see a little bit of a bounce? If we do believe we will see a bit of a bounce here, then we can add FIBO to this move, and we can see it bouncing off the 109.35 maybe there. So let's see, can it bounce up to and get back above the rising trend line? That would be key towards the next few days, or will it push lower? And the clue here could be if it takes out the lows from yesterday and this morning, then we could see 107.50. The sterling yen has sat back to the 50% retracement there at 210 and a quarter, just above the 100 moving average. So that would be key to what I think if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 210.19. So if it takes out 210.15, then expect a push down to 208.5. That could be seen. That's resistance up there, 213 and a quarter, 213.30 was too strong to take out, at least at first take. But we had a little bit of a double top going on here. So now it's unveiling its potential target. So keep an eye on that also. Aussie dollar sliding lower below the cloud, negative sentiment. I think we could see it down below 68, maybe 67, 65 here, where we have a bit of support. However, we also have a bit of support here at the 100 moving average coming up, giving it. The dollar Canada flirting with this previous peak there, took it out yesterday, sat back a little bit overnight, and I think we could see a push higher. But again, we are a little bit stressed here on the RSI, but there's no divergence, so I think we'll just see maybe a little bit of correction before we see dollar Canada pushing higher, and I think we will see it moving higher. The sterling Canada, always this frustrating pair here. It is very, very volatile, so we have to look at the bigger picture. It actually built an uptrend here, higher high, higher low, higher high, and maybe a higher low there. And could it push higher above 186 and higher? That would be key. However, if it takes out the lows here from the past few days, then expect the SEK back down to around 182. Euro Swiss, a lot of volatility the past few days. Started lower, then bounced back, started lower, bounced back, started lower this morning again here after that mini break overnight. But we are in a bullish trend, and I think we will see it pushing higher towards 92.20, where we then had the 100 moving average coming down. If it takes out that, well, then we could see it up here to maybe towards 93. But if it takes out the lows from yesterday, and let's just add a horizontal line to really illustrate that, well, 91.20, always subtract a little bit, 91.20. If it takes out that, expect a push lower towards 90.5 again. A dollar Swiss still in this rising channel there, and I think we'll see it test the resistance and peaks up here at 80.40 fairly shortly. Positive sentiment indicating likely higher levels. The dollar index, well, yesterday it closed above the 100 spot 35 resistance, now flirting with it, but I think we will see at higher levels in the coming weeks. However, look at this, the RSI. It is still in positive sentiment, but now it's building up divergence. But as we have seen with so many others, especially Euro Yen, it can still keep climbing, and I think it will. We are in a bullish trend. And looking also on the weekly, we'll see what's going on. It's really this 100 spot 35 that is key. The 60 threshold there is also on weekly really interesting to watch. If it does close above 60, then we could be looking at 101.80 on the medium term. On the metals markets, well, a little bit of volatility, of course, as there's always been. We have a little bit of bounce, trying to bounce further. We could test, and I think it will do that, the 46.58, 46.68 resistance here. If it takes out that, well, then we could be looking at the resistance there at 48.40. Remember, it used to be a support, now it's a resistance in this area there. If it takes out the lows there at 43.50, then downtrend is set to resume. The silver also crawling a little bit higher, minor resistance there at 75.60, and especially at 77. 95s here, around 78. It could test and then be knocked back down again, I believe. We have platinum, of course, also trying to bounce, but still in a bearish trend. On the copper front, not much to report, just trading around this 550, 558, just below the 100 moving average there. If it takes out the low there, and let's also highlight that with a horizontal line, if we take out that level at 540, well, then downtrend is back in session. We could see lower levels towards 507. The energy market and the WTI crude oil actually closed above its minor resistance there at 102.42. Now setting back a little bit, but we are in a bullish trend. However, as we can see, there is actually divergence on the RSI. You see RSI, well, it is above its falling trend line there, testing from the other side. upper side. So maybe we could see it just bouncing off and market pushing higher here on the WTI. I do believe we will see higher levels on the crude oil in general in the coming weeks. I don't think the what's going on in Iran area and the Middle East is over far from. We have the Brent crude oil forming a little bit of a top reversal pattern like that. We had this doji there yesterday. Let's see what will be going on. We can also draw a trend line, of course, here on this RSI and falling trend there. Still positive sentiment though, but we have divergence. Let's see here the next few days. There is still a risk up to test the previous peaks there, but I think maybe we could sit back a little bit. But still, we are in a bullish trend, and I think if we just look at the weekly, where we can see really a strong push there, but also a lot of volatility. But there is room up to the previous peaks, 125 and 139 possibly on the medium term. But look at this massive stretch above 85 there on the RSI. That is really high. So maybe we will get a larger correction. And that could be also what we saw on the oil sector in the US, that they formed these top and reversal patterns. The European nat gas trading around the 55, key support there at 48.40. That should be observed. Could bounce, but also here we are a bit stretched, so maybe a little bit of a setback. The US nat gas just slightly sliding lower here, and I think we could see it towards 260. US Treasury yields also has formed yesterday this bearish engulfing there, taking out the previous day of move. Massive sell-off, so to speak, where we saw buyers coming in and buy US Treasuries, resulting in lower yields. If it takes out 430, then 425, possibly down to 420. It is a little bit stretched, as you can see here, RSI declining, meaning we are stretched here and indicated exhaustion levels. However, medium term, there's still a risk higher for the treasury yields. We are in a bullish trend, but for now, a setback, and I think that can continue a little bit further. On the European yields, that has just opened here this morning, also sitting back a little bit here on the EU 10-year, testing the support there at 302, but the key support down there at 294. There's still a bit of way to go. We are still in a bullish trend, so it could bounce again. Keep an eye on that. The UK 10 also has been sitting back here, and still in a bullish trend, but see, this is almost like a cluster of trading days in this region around the between 485 and up to 510 and a bit. And so that is the area it needs to take out of, and we can add a little bit of a horizontal line there. Where is it? There we have it, right there. So 481. The Japanese 10, also bullish trend, but as we talked about yesterday, it opened above the resistance there, the peak there, but it set back. We're still in a bullish trend. I think we will crawl higher in the coming weeks, but a little bit of correction down to 230, 31 could be seen. The on cryptocurrencies, really not much to report. Yes, we have a little bit of a counter trend here, but trying to get back above. It needs to get back above the falling trend line, and especially, and let's have a look at that. So if it takes out that little spike up there at 72,030, well, then the bullish trend is back in session. Same picture on the Ethereum, of course. It's a bearish trend short term, but still positive sentiment on the RSI, bouncing off 40 threshold, could crawl higher in the coming weeks. All right, that's all for today. And be careful out there, and we will see each other again tomorrow. Have a nice day. Keep charting.